Anyways, I am so sorry. That ended up being almost like 10 minutes worth of waiting on me because my silly computer. How are you, Ash?
Oh, no worries. I know this is a weird technology learning curve era. So, no worries. I'm doing all right. How are you
Good.
doing?
I'm good. Jayson Slade, Ash, by the way. Thank you so much for spending time with us and chatting. I know we were supposed to do this a couple of weeks ago, but there were some conflicts in schedules, and it's totally fine. We got it done. 2020's already been a weird enough year, so I
Oh,
mean, was a
yeah.
musician like you. It's been about 6 months now, and I'm
Mm,
always just very curious what each musician does during quarantine because the idea, people on the outside, we automatically, a lot of us think that, okay, everyone's just working on new material, new music. But
mhm.
some of the musicians that I've talked to said, "Look, yeah, maybe for about the first month. And then you realize, well, I'm going to burn out quick. So I got to get out. I got to live life. I got to enjoy life. I got to still do the things that I know that I can do within my own element and not. Do you find yourself in that same position where you just have been trying not to burn out? I know you've got an album that you're still working on, but how's that been going for you?
Yeah, it's so, I think you can probably relate to this, and most people can. It's so up and down and left and right. And, sometimes I don't know who I'm like waking up as that day.
Yeah.
Sometimes this morning I woke up with like tons of energy and was like, awesome, like, great. Today's going to be a energetic, fun day. But, other days I'll wake up and, the world will sneak in and it'll be a little bit heavier. And so I think we just have to give ourselves a lot of grace during this time. And artists and musicians, we tend to be highly emotional people.
It's where the
So all
best
of that,
music comes from, though,
yeah,
right? From your own
totally.
feelings. Which,
And it
speaking of
does
that, I
really
wanted to
affect
talk
us.
about this because it was also during quarantine. Actually, I want to say around about early March that I heard for the first time "Moral of the Story," and I remember hearing it for the first time. And my friend was actually on the phone with me, and your song, I had a radio on, and it so happened to be playing in the background. And I put him on hold. I'm like, hold on a second, because the lyrics just caught me because it wasn't your typical breakup song. It was different. It wasn't sobby. It was more of a song that I took as just, okay, this is about a marriage that didn't work out. There's no
Yeah.
blame game going on. It's just basically taking fault, I guess, for your half of it and just learning and growing as a person and just saying, look, I made it. I made a decision. It didn't work out. I'll do better next time. Now I know what I know. Is that pretty much what I'm getting here from the song?
Yeah. I knew I needed to process it, and that the best way to do that for me as a songwriter is to sit down at a piano and start working through it. And yeah, I went through a pretty really, tough breakup, which was a divorce. And so it was an insane time of my life and one of the hardest times of my life. And so yeah, I the day we wrote that song, and similar to what I was just saying, you never know what you're gonna wake up as sometimes. And sometimes, I just released another single called Save Myself, which is way more like in the anger stage of grief, like I if I could do this again, I would have done it so differently. But more, what I love about Moral of the Story, and what I think what makes it sort of unique and maybe more mature, is um that it's sort of it's like very accepting of the situation and going, well, that's how that one went, and that's okay, and I'm better for it, and I can learn from it. And yeah, it's pretty insane though that a record like that is on the radio. That shocks me every time I hear
As
it.
you're going through the process of recording that or writing it and playing it out, is it processing very well for you? Are you still caught up in the emotions of what the song is about? Or was it more of
Mhm.
a therapeutic process where the further along you got, the better you felt about the situation?
I would say the latter. Yeah, I think, you know, writing the song was kind of tough, but I've never really had an issue with being vulnerable in my writing,
Yeah.
because my favorite records are records that are incredibly vulnerable with
Yeah.
me. So, um, yeah, I think it took a long time to process. And but now it's taken on its own life
Yeah.
that, it's still my song and it's still in so many ways my baby, but it's sort of graduated. It's in everybody else's hands now, and other people have adopted it, and people in high school that are going through a breakup, are adopting it, or women in their 50s that are going through a
Right.
divorce. There's sort of a wide range of
One size fits
humans.
all type of mentality with the song now.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And
The
then when other
version,
people take it, it's
yeah.
it's no longer just my song.
The version that we're playing right now in WIXX, because the first time I heard it, it was just you. And then once it got to pop radio, Niall Horan was on the track. How did he get involved? Did he hear it and he reached out? Or did the label say, hey, we think it'd be a great idea? Maybe what do you think about Niall being on it? How did that come about that Niall Horan ended up being on the other version?
Yeah. Oh, love Niall. He jumped on the record. He had heard it. And one of his label mates, they had hit him up about potentially singing on it, and asked me first, and were you okay with me running this by him? And I was like, oh sure,
Uh,
fine, yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, let him know that I love him, and yeah. And then within a couple of days we were on a FaceTime call and just chatting, the two of us, and getting to know each other. And which is actually, it's funny, Niall and I were just talking about this yesterday, that there's a lot of songs out there that are collab songs or duets where the artists have never, not alone, not even met in person, but not even had a conversation.
I
And
remember, it's funny you mentioned
yeah.
it. I think the first one that I knew of like that, I remember the story about, not to digress, but the story about airplanes with B.O.B. and Haley Williams. And he wanted
Oh
her on the
wow.
track, but they had never like met ever until like an award ceremony where they performed it. And other than that,
Wow.
like they sent each other the tracks, they laid down their vocals, and boom, the rest is history. So I think that's really
Wow.
really cool how those, you don't even have to be in the same location to be on the same track together. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, and you can get creative with it. But I know that not Niall and I think based just on the type of artists that we are and our personalities, it was really important that we liked each other as
Yeah.
people, and that we got to know each other and created a friendship well before the song came out. We've still never met in person because it all happened during, this era of COVID-19. And
Yeah.
but that was really important. And so the first step was getting on a FaceTime meeting that way. And we just got along so well so quickly. And yeah, it was important to me that I liked him. And it was important to him that he liked me,
Yeah.
because if we were going to do promo together, like we didn't want to have to hide that we secretly hated each other, and we're like, oh, I got to do more interviews with this guy. So we just, yeah, totally loved each other, and now we're good friends. And so that makes it so much better, and
Yeah.
made it so much more meaningful.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but are you going to be going over to the UK or over to Europe to do potentially something with him down the road? Are you going to be opening up for him? Because I know he was touring, and then all of a sudden the pandemic hit here in the States, and they
Right.
kind of had to cut that short. Am I hearing that wrong? Did I get bad information?
Did I get back? I think you got rumors. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. We're trying to work something out. He has a performance at the Royal Albert Hall coming up, and we're trying to figure something out. But with the era we're living in and restrictions and whatnot, we're not
Yeah.
sure what's possible. But we're trying to. We know that our fans are sort of itching for that, and we are itching for it. We keep making the joke that we're just never gonna meet. We'll be at an award show or something and just avoid each other to keep the joke running.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not sure. I would love to open for him one day. I would love to sing with him. So hopefully sooner than later we can get that happening.
One of the things about the track Moral of the Story that some people do not know is that one of the co-producers on it is Phineas, who a lot of our base here at WIXX, they know his sister even more, Billie Eilish, and you and him are good friends, like really, really good friends, like goes beyond music, right?
Yeah, he's one of my best ones. I think that the music industry is really about finding your people. Well, not about, but it's important that you find your people that you really connect with. And we met, I want to say, 3 or 4 years ago now. And it was, it was well before 5 Grammys for him, and well before, a lot of Billy, I think it had just had Ocean Eyes out,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, we were just kind of two songwriters thrown in a room together, and we just really, in many ways, and I've said this before, are very different people, but kind of inexplicably connected. We just have such a love for each other. And that's what I feel so lucky about in this song in particular, you know, someone I deeply love and have so much respect for, like Phineas. He's been in my life. And then now there's this friendship with Niall that feels similar in a way of, there's a deeper connection there than just like we are coworkers,
Right.
So yeah.
So let me get this straight. Cali girl, right? You're from Cali?
Yeah, I'm from the Bay Area.
Okay, Bay Area. Um, from what I understand, at least from what I researched, you grew up in a pretty religious household, but it was actually your grandpa that turned you on to music outside of that realm. Is that right? So you got to experience a lot of the old school rock and roll and other mixture of stuff thanks to Pops, Grandpops.
Yeah, grandpa was the savior of the day. And I think I've never actually said this in an interview, but also would show me records like Fever by Peggy Lee, and just some old jazz records too.
Yeah.
So he's sort of my saving grace. Otherwise, I was just listening to Christian radio in the car, which has there's some good
Absolutely.
songs out there, but
Absolutely.
yeah, not my particular taste now. And so yeah, he was my guy, and it's such a big reason why I went to music school and sort of pursued that. And yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about that Berkeley College of Music. That's not just some school. I mean, that's for the gifted, for someone who really has a drive and an ambition to do that in some way, shape, or form. When you go to a school, like how early did you know that this was what you wanted to do? Because I would imagine for the Berkeley College of Music, you just don't wake up one day, and decide 2 weeks later I'm going to enroll. How early did you know that you wanted to do this for a living when you grew up?
Oh man, and I don't know when I'm gonna get to share the full story of this, because it's not just my story.
Yeah.
It involves other family members and everything. But there was a long season in high school that things were really hard, and I think I realized somewhere in there that the only thing that seemed to be stabilizing and that made sense was music for me. And so I was introduced to Berklee College of Music through, I think, an ex, probably. I think
Yeah.
he was like a guitar guy and loved it. And yeah, it was like, if I'm going to go to college, then it's going to be music school. And so I only applied to Berkeley. Um, and, but there was never that aha moment, like where you get hit by a truck and you're like, oh, I'm going to be a musician. It was very incremental for me, which I know is kind of a less sexy
Hmm.
story. But that's my life. Not very sexy. um, I just was like incrementally, the next right step is going to music school. And I studied orchestral writing and production. And the next step, the next right step was moving to Nashville. And I wanted to be a songwriter and didn't really think I was good enough to be an artist singing your own songs. So it's sort of little by little, music found me and was pulling it out of me to get to this moment.
Yeah, so you moved to Nashville to be a songwriter. Now that you've gotten your taste of both parts now, because people know the song moral of the story, and you've got more that's going to be dropping soon. What do you enjoy more of? Did you have the mindset going to Nashville that, okay, I'm just going to write songs, or did you know, look, eventually I want to break out of this and I just want to perform? So what do you prefer more of? Do you enjoy the songwriting, or do you enjoy the performing part?
Ooh. Well, I think I fell in love with songwriting first. So that will always have a special hold on me,
Yeah.
but it I didn't sort of realize my fullness of who I was until I was like, I'm good enough to do this. I can, why not me? And sometimes you just have to ask yourself, like, why not me? And so I was like, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to
Yeah.
sing my own songs, and I'm going to perform it. And that decision, from that moment on, it was like the universe was like, yep, like, you finally signed on for what we saw for you. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, it's such, they go hand in hand. I even say about, releasing the album, it's going to be really hard if I release the album in a time I'm not able to tour it. I have no idea what next year is going to look like. But I'd love to. Now I'm at a place where I'm in love with the songwriting, but then once it's out in the world, I want to scream the lyrics with everybody.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty 50-50. I
What
love them
is your
both.
routine when it comes to songwriting? Are you constantly thinking about it? And the reason why is because there's some people that say that they wake up and that's all they think about throughout the day. Their whole life revolves around, thinking of song lyrics. If they're in
Hmm.
Starbucks and they're in line, they see something funny that's written on the chalkboard or whatever, they write it down. Or does it just, a spontaneous thing for you throughout the day? If something pops up and it strikes a chord with you, you just, you know, how do you go about it?
Well, I think it shows up so differently every time for me. There's sort of an allowance in my life to, like, there's space to see, oh, well, maybe it'll pop up this way or that way. And sometimes I'll be in the Starbucks line, like you were saying, and a lyric will pop up because you see something on the chalkboard. That's happened more often than not. I'm such an experiential writer. I mean, which you guys can kind of see from moral of the story.
Yeah.
There's some writers who can kind of step into a character or someone else's role and do an amazing job at telling someone else's story. I've always been a writer who kind of goes out into the world and then reports back. And he is very experiential. So, yeah, most of my songs are incredibly personal, and they start sitting at the piano and talking through life. And um, that's just the way I've kind of always done it. I'm open to, like, the random inspiration at Starbucks, but yeah, they're gonna think this is sponsored by Starbucks. It's
I think
not.
I probably used a bad example. You're going to start going in Starbucks looking at it completely different now after that analogy that I threw out
I'm
there.
gonna I'm gonna start looking for songs every time I go to a Starbucks now. But
Let's deal with the
yeah,
what's up with the album, Ash? When do we have a release date for it yet, or is that something that's still to be determined?
I don't know. I don't know. I gotta finish it
Okay.
first. So step one, finish the album, which and I've been saying this for months, but we're so close. I'm so close to being done. But something will happen in my life, and I'll be like, the album is not done until I write about this. And so there's a couple things that have happened even more recently that I'm like, nah, the album's not done until I write about that.
Yeah.
So hopefully sooner than later. And I mean, I'm itching. There's a couple songs that I know for sure are going on the album and that are done. And I'm like, ooh, I just want to, if I could put it out tomorrow, I would. So we'll see.
Cool.
It changes all the time. I'll be on the
Yeah.
phone with my manager and I'm like, what do you think about releasing it then? And he's like, yeah, or maybe late. It's so up
Yeah.
in the air right now.
Real quick, because we're see now we're getting cut short on time. That's all because of my silly laptop. But real quick, social media, how do your fans get at you?
Oh, mostly Ash Music, ASAG Music on Instagram is usually where you can find me. It's the same for Twitter. I usually interact with fans the most on Twitter and
Okay,
Instagram. But yeah,
nice.
that's the spot. And I don't blame you. I talk so much.
No, this is
It's
a great
always
conversation. I
me.
love. We're honestly just having a conversation. That's all that. I don't even think of it as an interview. It's just conversation. Just two people just
Just
talking life and music and all that.
just gabbing like two old girlfriends.
I get paid to do it for. I mean, I better be able to hold a conversation. That's what they pay me to do around here. Ash, thank
You're
you so
crushing it.
much. Good luck with the album. Moral of the story that's out, that's still being played on WIXX right now. People love the song, by the way. It made our top 9 at 9 last night. Don't remember what number. I think it was like number 6 or 7. And then I'm sure after this interview, I'm sure it'll shoot up a little higher. But good luck with everything. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today. Enjoy the rest of your
Uh,
day, your weekend, and everything else good that comes to you for the rest of 2020.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you. Thanks for hanging out with me, and hopefully we can do it again in person soon.
Absolutely. Hopefully sooner than later. All right. Take care.
Yeah. All right. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.